member of the Executive Committee of AMJA, the American Muslim Jurist Association. He got his PhD in 2004 in Science and Technology of Economics and Islam from the American Open University. Before that, he received his master's in Islamic Studies from Yarmouk University in Jordan and bachelor's in Islamic Economics from Al-Azhar in Egypt. He's currently the assistant professor of Islamic Studies in the American Open University and the Imam of Mass KT Center in Houston, Texas. His specialty is in the field of Islamic economics and finance, and he has given multiple fatwa for Amja in this regard. Dr. Alqudah, we welcome you to the Malden community. I believe this is the second time. Thank you. Second time, and inshallah, many more. Sheikhna, we look forward to hearing from you, and we are going to have a brief Q&A after the talk, inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم نور قلوبنا بالعلم وزين أخلاقنا بالحلم وافتح بيننا وبين قومنا بالحق وأنت خير الفاتحين أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله والحمد لله لا شريك له لا إله إلا هو إليه النشور أمسينا على فطرة الإسلام وكلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين اللهم إنا أمسينا منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتم علينا نعمتك وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة اللهم ما أمسى بنا من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك فلك الحمد ولك الشكر يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا أحبتي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته طبتم وطاب ممشاكم وتبوأتم من الجنة منزلا بإذن الله. Thank you so much for having me for the second time within almost 1 year. Who can remind me with the topic that we discussed in details last time? What was the topic we discussed? Islamic mortgage companies, mashallah, I still remember. So our topic actually for tonight is more general. It's not that as specific as the first time. It's Islamic Finance 101. Islamic Finance 101. Of course, we'll be discussing different implementation in the real life. Some discussion about life insurance, some discussion about student loans, investment in the stock market, retirement accounts, home mortgaging, and so on and so forth. Let me start with the fact, and I'll keep it simple, that Islamic finance actually is not a fair name for that system that we embrace and we practice as much as we can. It's not only an Islamic one. It is a Christian one. It is a Jewish one. It is a divine system from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I do not think we do enough justice to this system when we just exclude it and call it Islamic finance, as if we Muslims are just coming up with something that's brand new that did not exist in the past. Of course, I mean, in this system, we do have a lot of characteristics, certain guidelines and limitations. Okay, everybody actually knows that in the Islamic finance system, you cannot, for example, get involved in a business that is haram, that is harmful to the society, that brings like a bad outcome result, that it threats the conviction and the ethics and the value of the society. Everybody actually knows that in the Islamic finance system, you cannot get involved in a business where you do not know how much you will be paying, to whom you will be paying, and how much you will be getting in return, what you will be getting in return. I mean, that is Islamic Finance 101. Everything has to be clear. You know your position in the business. What are you expecting? What are you paying? To whom? What is the nature of the business? That is something I would say, common sense. Now, the very fundamental difference between the Islamic finance or the divine finance and the man-made one, the conventional, the traditional one that people actually are embracing and practicing nowadays, is the lack of interest or lack of riba. Of course, I mean, we'll be having discussion what does riba mean, right? But actually, any kind of finance system that does involve riba or interest, that is not an Islamic finance to start with. Now, my point here is that we all believe that riba is prohibited, okay? But we also believe that riba was prohibited for different people of faith before us. That is the whole point. So riba actually, which is the main characteristics, or lack in riba, staying away, abandoning riba, which is the main characteristic that makes Islamic finance different, is not prohibited in Islam only. It was prohibited in Christianity. It was prohibited in Judaism, believe it or not. So all different like divine, Semitic, Abrahamic religions, different divine religions from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are calling actually for the same. In addition to the fact that all these different prophets and messengers were calling to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it comes to prohibited matters, all the major prohibited matters in Christianity and Judaism are still prohibited matters in Islam, in which one of them is the prohibition of interest. In fact, the Quran itself is the one who documented to us the prohibition of interest, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I recall in Surah Al-Araf maybe, was like, criticizing a certain Jewish community in the past. He said, وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَى, and they used to deal with interest. They used to deal with interest. وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَى وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ, and they used to deal with interest while they were prohibited from doing so. That's my point. So Judaism actually does prohibit interest. Christianity does prohibit interest. Yes, we do have a lot of like concerns and question marks when it comes to the authenticity of the so-called Bible that people refer to as the Bible. But let's just skip this point and open the Bible and read. You will find a lot of verses and indications where Isa alayhi salatu wasalam and Hawariyin were prohibiting their communities or their followers from dealing with interest. So it's not a brand new system that we came up with. It is actually already there. It is a divine finance. It is a Christian finance. It is actually a Jewish finance system. That's number one. Number two, abandoning riba or banning riba is the main characteristic, okay, in this system. What is the definition of riba? What is riba that we are keep repeating ourselves? Riba haram, riba interest is haram. What kind of riba we are referring to? Here is one of the issues that we face as a Muslim community in this society here. Sometimes you try to educate yourself by just going back to those traditional, fiqh books and read, about the definition of riba, and you get actually confused way more than educated in this issue. Okay, you read, for example, about exchanging wheat for barley, right? That is riba. Exchanging wheat for wheat with different quality. Exchanging orange for apple. Well, those are actually very authentic and very real, categories and examples of riba. But the problem here is that we Muslims in the United States in 2022, okay, we do not belong, or those examples, right? Those examples do not, like, very, very outdated, okay? We do not experience them in the real life. We do not exchange wheat for barley or sugar for rice or date fruit for date fruit with different quality, right? So those examples actually are authentic enough, do not get me wrong, but this is not the riba that we are referring to. Not the riba that we are referring to. Riba that we are referring to is a very simple concept. It is someone who is offering money to somebody else, right? And the recipient actually of the money, is the one who is taking the whole responsibility and liability from A to Z, right? Now the advancer or the financier or the lender, whatever you want to call him, right? The source of money, right, is not taking any risk whatsoever. You take that money, you go, for example, to Wells Fargo, you apply for $100,000 business investment or personal, what do you call it, a business loan, okay, or investment loan. Now, once your application is approved, you take the money, or the money is wired to your account, you are literally by your own, right? You make a profit you break even, you incur loss, you lose even the principal amount itself, the bank actually does not care about you. There is no partnership, there is no relationship between you and Wells Fargo, for example, other than the fact that the bank actually is the lender and you are the borrower, right? There is no business partnership. There is no partnership between you and the lender. Now, this kind of riba is the most severe one, is the most prohibited one. Its prohibition actually is something that is agreed upon. If we do have some differences between the four different madhab regarding riba al-fadl exchanging like wheat for wheat or barley for wheat, we do not have any disagreement that when someone advances money to somebody else and the recipient of the money is taking the whole liability, he or she is responsible to pay off the principal amount plus extra money, that this is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. So from now on, whenever I say interest, or I say usury, or I say riba, I mean the following. And I want you to remember this definition because I'm going to ask you, inshallah, toward the end of the presentation. It is the premium that has to be paid by the borrower to the lender along with the principal amount, right? Either as a condition for the loan or for the extension of its maturity. One more time, slow motion. It is the premium that has to be paid by the borrower to the lender along with the principal amount, either as a condition, either as a condition for the loan or for the extension of its maturity. So we have two different kinds of money here. We have the principal amount and we have the premium. We have the principal amount and we have the premium. We have two contracting parties here. We have lender and we have borrower. We do not have partners here. We have lender and we have borrower. Okay. And from the definition, by default, the borrower actually is fully responsible for paying off the principal amount and the interest on top of it, or the premium. Well, forget about interest. Let's call it premium. Okay. Let's call it surplus or premium on top of the principal amount. That is the riba that we are discussing from now on. What does it mean as a condition for the loan? Condition for the loan means that if you are not willing to commit yourself to paying that extra amount, you cannot proceed with the loan. Okay, you go to Bank of America, you ask for a loan. They said, okay, it's going to be 3 PR. You tell them, okay, I'm practicing Muslim. I do not deal with interest. Okay, good for you. Ma'asalam, you are in the wrong place. Right? You cannot take the money. You go practice your religion in the masjid. Do not come to Bank of America again. So you have to make yourself ready that, yes, I am willing, okay, by the law of the land, by the agreement with Bank of America, that I will be paying such and such APR, right? APR stands for annual percentage rate. So this is actually condition for the loan. If you agree, here is the money. If not, then you are by your own. Or for the extension of its maturity, it might happen, it did happen actually in the past, that before the permanent prohibition of interest, okay, you read, for example, in الموطأ الإمام مالك كان الرجل يقرض الرجل فإذا جاء الأجل قال أمهلني وأزيدك أو فإذا جاء الأجل قال إما أن تقضي وإما أن تربي. People used to lend to one another before the permanent prohibition of interest based on interest-free loan, believe it or not. قرض حسن, no interest whatsoever. Upon the maturity of the loan, either the lender would approach the borrower by saying, you either pay me now with no consequences on the principal amount, or if you want more time, that would be fine, but you have to pay me more. You have to pay me more. Or maybe sometimes the borrower would approach the lender by saying, I know that the loan is due, I do not have enough money. How about giving me more time and I will pay you more, right? So they both, or one of them, introduced interest toward the maturity of the loan. فأنزل الله سبحانه وتعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين فإن لم تفعلوا فأذنوا بحرب من الله ورسوله وإن تبتم فلكم رؤوس أموالكم لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون. So whether you go with the for the extension of its maturity or as a condition for the loan, at the end of the day, you are adding premium on top of the principal amount. That is the riba that we are referring to from now on. I'm gonna repeat the definition of riba for the third and the last time. Okay, slow motion is the premium that has to be paid by the borrower. Am I going too fast? Okay, it is the premium that has to be paid by the borrower to the lender, along with the principal amount, either as a condition for the loan or for the extension of its maturity. So far, so good? Okay. That's the definition of interest. We do not disagree that riba is haram. And now we know the definition of riba. Okay. What kind of challenge we Muslims in this country actually what challenges are facing? It's not the prohibition of interest. It's not the definition of interest. It is actually the implementation of the interest-bearing transactions. How can we navigate through the system and find out where is the interest-bearing transactions to be avoided, and where are the interest-free transactions to be conducted confidently or safely? That is the challenge. Why we are facing this challenge? Because of the difference, huge difference between what we read in the classical fiqh books, okay, from one side, and the actual real life that we are immersed in. Okay, every single day you come across different kinds of charges. You either charge other people, right, or you find yourself mandated to be mandated to charge others, or you are charged by other people. Okay, you come across something called late fees. Right? It's not introduced to you as riba, or it is late fees. Sometimes you receive interest from your saving account. How about commission? How about honorarium? How about overtime charge? Penalty? What else? Cashback, right? Fees, thank you. Fees. How about cashback, right? And so on and so forth. Overdraft charge, okay? So you come across different charges, whether you have to pay to others or you are charged by others. You come across this charge, that overdraft charge, late fees, right? Cashback. Is this the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited or not? We just get confused, right? And that's why actually we need to implement that definition that I repeated 3 times and find out. We need to unlock the secret of every single transaction to find out, is this definition of riba implemented here in a very simple words? Can we find out? Can we just, can we deduct anyone in the transaction, the deal, in the enterprise, in the partnership, in the contract, whatever it is? That's advancing money to others, right? Advancing money to others. And that money is guaranteed. And the return on the money, or the premium on top of the money, is guaranteed as well, without taking any liability, without taking any risk. If that is proven, then this is actually the riba, or the interest that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited, whether it is introduced to you as interest or introduced to you as otherwise. It doesn't make any difference. Honestly, we do not care that much about the names or the technical terms or the terminology that you use in the contract. Okay, you cannot just tweak or change or just manipulate the term. Just remove the word interest and you put profit. You remove the word loan, for example, and you put musharaka or mudaraba. Excuse me, I mean, people are not silly. We know very well, okay, what does Islamic finance mean. So we do not care about the terms that you use in the in the agreement. What we care about is the essence and the nature of the agreement. And this actually brings to our attention a very important fiqh maxim, or qaida fiqhiyya, that has to be in your mind like 24/7. In the same way that you know by heart definition of riba, I want you please to know by heart, to memorize the following qaida, fiqh maxim. العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. What matters, what really matters in transactions is the essence and the reality, not the wording or the formality. العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. What matters in transactions is the essence and reality, not the wording or the formality. Again, regardless of whatever terms that you use, some Islamic companies, maybe mortgage, maybe investment company, they try to impress you by just using some fiqh terms. Oh, this is bay'ul ayn wa istithna'ul manfa'a. This is musharaka, murabaha, and just come up with different terms to impress you that, oh, wow, those people know Islamic finance. Well, with all due respect, they know nothing, right? The contract itself shows that this is a straightforward interest-bearing transaction or conventional mortgage process, although it is called otherwise. Now let's take some practical examples, okay, and do some training together, some exercise together, to be able to navigate, right, and to unlock the secret of the transaction and to pass a judgment, on it, whether it is a haram or halal. Does it have riba or not on it? Let's see. Okay, first example. You do have in your checking account, in your like debit card, you have only $300 available. $300. You stopped by any point of sale, JCPenney, whatever, and you purchased an item for $500. So you have only 300, and you purchased an item for how much? $500. Most probably, the transaction actually goes through. It goes through. I mean, you will be able to proceed and just get the item of $500. Okay. In the bank statement, you will see $200 that have to be paid back, right? And on top of that, there is 35, just random numbers, $35 overdraft charge. It's not riba. No. It is overdraft charge. Now, who can help me interpreting or unlocking the secret of what happened? This is actually the exact exercise that we have to do for every single transaction to find out whether or not it is an interest-bearing one or not. Okay, let's think about it this way. If I buy something for $500 and I have only 300 and it goes through, or it has gone through, it means that I have taken $200 from somebody else. Am I correct? Okay. Now, is this like a gift for you, $200, because you're like a very valuable, customer with Chase for the last 20 years? No, it is not, right? So this is a loan. You have to pay the $200. You have to pay back the $200. Okay. Now, you borrowed from Chase $200, and you have to pay $200 plus $35 overdraft charge. So we ended up having Chase giving you $200 as a loan, and on top of that, you have to pay XYZ amount. That extra amount is the premium that you are referring to. So you are borrowing money with interest from Chase through or by overdrafting your debit card, by withdrawing, overdrafting or withdrawing an amount that you do not own. This is actually the initial interpretation, or the fiqh interpretation of what's happened, that you have borrowed money with interest. You can easily, by the way, argue that by saying, no, hold on, Chase actually does have an what they call it, overhead expenses, processing fees. I mean, someone has to process the payment and go, well, this actually costs money. That is very, very possible, right? But I'm here tonight actually just to establish some fundamental basic rules, right? The default rule is that the overdraft charge is an interest, because that's an amount that you have to pay as a borrower to the lender along with the principal amount. That's one example. Second example. Okay, I told my brother here that I'll be giving you $5,000 as a loan, and you have from now until the end of 2023. Okay. You need to pay me back $6,000, $5,000 principal, $1,000 interest. Okay, in December 31st, 2023. Okay, and then I changed my mind. I said, you know what? I'm going to put that amount. I'm going to open a saving account with Capital One, and I open a saving account with Capital One, $5,000. Based on the agreement with Capital One, they're going to pay me back, or just release the amount as $6,000 toward the end of the year. $5,000 principal, and the extra money actually is interest. is interest, right? So by the end of the year, by the end of the next year, 2023, if we stay alive, I will be getting $6,000 from Capital One. Now my question to you, what is the difference, technical, legal, fiqh difference between me offering those $5,000 to my brother here to be paid back 6,000 in 1 year, where he does guarantee the principal and the premium on top of it, versus me opening a saving account with Capital One, okay, where Capital One does guarantee the principal and the premium, same amount, same duration, same conditions. Is there any difference between the two different scenarios? The answer actually is no, there is no difference. Technically speaking, legally speaking, right? Financially speaking, it's just copy and paste. Okay. What does this mean? It means that opening a saving account is an interest-bearing transaction where the recipient, right, which is Capital One, our example I said, right, is guaranteeing the principal and guaranteeing the premium by the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Regardless of what happened, they burn out, they make business, they lend the money. You do not care about them, right? They are by their own. Okay, they have to guarantee you the 5,000 principal amount and $1,000 on top of it from now all the way until the end of 2023. So opening a saving account by default is not a halal option. Now, do not tell me, okay, what is the alternative? Well, I have a lot of money. Well, that's completely different discussion. Okay, I want to set off the inflation. I want to have at least 2.5% for the zakah. All these different issues are very irrelevant, with all due respect to our discussion here, because we are just establishing very fundamental, orthodox, if you wish, basic rules about fiqh riba. So opening a saving account is not a halal option by default, period. Okay. Right. A third example. I do have a family plan with Verizon for myself and my family members, where I pay them $190 a month. Okay. Toward the end of the month, because of me and my wife and kids using their service, I owe them, Verizon, $190. I owe them. Okay. I did not borrow from the money, by the way. So technically speaking, this is not a loan, this is a debt. Service, thank you. Okay. I do have some employees at Guidance College, the one that I'm representing tonight. Toward the end of the month, I owe my employees their salary. I did not lend them money. Okay. I did not borrow, I did not lend them money, but they worked actually for Guidance College for 1 month. So I owe them their salary toward the end of the month. So this is technically speaking a debt more than to be a loan. Okay. In the Islamic finance system, in most cases, debt is equivalent to a loan. All the rules and the restrictions and the guidelines that we do apply to the interest-bearing loan are to be applied to the debt as well. Now, back to Verizon. Every single month you receive a utility bill, right? And it does have a due date. What will happen if you purposely waited until it is overdue? You have to pay something called late fees. So you owe Verizon, or I owe Verizon $190, and I waited like after the due date, okay, in which I just exposed myself, to pay them, $220, 190, the like the basic amount, plus what is called the late fees. Now, if we agree that debt is equivalent to a loan, and I have to pay them way more than whatever I owe them, then the extra amount, the late fees, will be counted as interest. Again, you can argue that late fees actually is important. I mean, couldn't be avoided, especially when it comes to like lease agreement or rent agreement. The recipient does not use the money for himself. He puts the money aside, to pay it to a law firm or to a collection agency to go like after the delinquent account. I mean, that's very, very possible, right? But again, we are here tonight to discuss very fundamental and basic rules about riba. So by default, the late fees is a kind of interest. Do not expose yourself to pay late fees. طيب, let's take the, I'm sorry. طيب. طيب. Yeah, if you give me maybe another 10 or 15 minutes to further presentation, I'm just here to open your appetite, like for more discussion, inshallah. I'll stay after that. So I get my dinner, I get my coffee. I'm just willing to stay until tomorrow morning, if you are willing to. طيب. طيب. Let's just take like the opposite example now. Okay, and I want you to help me passing a fatwa. How about the cashback? Cashback. Okay. Do not jump to a fatwa. Take just one minute. Okay. Use your credit card. Okay. You borrow $100 from credit card company, and you get $5 cash back. So the net amount that you pay is 100 minus 5. That's 95. Oh, that's less than, okay. Is it riba or not? Just think about it. Do not answer. Think. Was that? طيب. أنا أخي الكريم, what I'm caring about here tonight is the process itself, is the thinking process. I mean, how to determine that this cashback is riba or not. We need, again, like for every single transaction, just pause, okay, think about it, try to unlock the secret of the transaction, and then you can come up with an answer. Here is what's going on. When you get cash back, it means that you are using your credit card and not your debit card. Am I correct? Credit card means that you are borrowing money from the credit card company. You can borrow that money by stopping by any ATM machine, just withdraw some cash. You can pay bills, you can purchase items. You have something called line of credit, right? So at the end of the day, you are borrowing money from the credit card company, right? So we are talking about loan agreement. Am I correct? You are the borrower, and the credit card company is the lender. Okay. Now you purchased an item for $100. It means that you borrowed from the third party, from the credit card company, $100. Now, riba actually is to pay 100 plus. Riba is to pay 100 plus. But in the real life, with the cashback, for those $100 that you borrowed, you will be rewarded 5 points. 5 points are translated into or converted to $5. So you borrow $100 and you pay back 100 minus 5 equals 95. So you pay less. You pay less. If you are to pay some way, somehow, 105, that's riba. You borrowed 100 and you paid premium on top of the principal, as we already explained several times. But in this case, actually, you borrow and you pay less. You do not pay more. So actually, cashback is completely the opposite of riba. The opposite of riba. So cashback actually is halal. Cashback is halal. Now let's take another example, another good example. Okay, you want to buy a house from your neighbor. Okay, you want to buy a house from your neighbor, non-Muslim neighbor, John Smith. John Smith actually is asking for $100,000 cash for the house, right? And you do not want to like involve banks, and you do not have 100,000. So I told him, you know what? I'm interested, but I do not have money. Can you make an installment for me? He said, yeah, sure, why not? But there will be some charge, some interest. I told him, well, I do not deal with interest. He said, well, this is what I have for you. You take it or you leave it. So he put in the contract $100,000 price, right? And added, let's say, $20,000 interest. And he insisted actually in putting interest, okay? In order for you to have that deal, like, installment sale instead of spot sale, let's say for 10 years, more or less, or whatever details. So he said, listen, this is $100,000 cash, okay? Or 120 for 10 years installment. Installment means 100 principal price plus $20,000 interest. Okay, deal, sign. Okay, if you get involved in this deal, are you paying John Smith $20,000 interest? Do not answer. Do not answer. Just breathe. Think. Okay. طيب, let me confuse you more. How about that? What if you decided to go to Bank of America and to borrow $100,000 and to pay it cash to John Smith and to pay that 120 within 10 years to Bank of America? Okay. Will it be equivalent to having an in-house or owner finance with John Smith? It is not. It is not. Now, let me just make it clear. If you go to a third party for borrowing purposes, that's an interest-bearing loan. Clear? You borrow from Bank of America 100, you pay it back 120. Bank of America did not purchase the house. There is no partnership, nothing whatsoever. Just straightforward mortgage process, right? But if you have chosen to go with John Smith himself, well, guess what? There is no loan to start with. You are not even borrowing money from John Smith, right? He has a house and he's asking for 100,000. Very straightforward deal. But you do not have cash. Well, because of the opportunity cost, because of the time value, okay, he is asking for $120,000 price. Okay. Now, is it, well, forget about John Smith. Even if the owner is Muhammad Abdullah, is it okay for him to ask for two different prices for the same commodity because of the installment duration? Can he ask for extra price because the difference between the spot sale and the credit sale? Yes, he can. Yes, he can. Okay. So having two different prices, and I want to establish this clear, having two different prices for the same commodity based on the options like spot sale versus credit sale, right, is permissible. And to make it even clearer, if the market value of the house is only 100,000, right, does he have the right to ask for 120 cash money? Yes. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, this is what I have. You take it or you leave it. Right? If you think that I'm like inflating the price, you just go and find somewhere else. So if he does have the right, to overprice or to inflate the price for like spot sale, why cannot he just break down those 120 into 10 years, right? This is, by the way, one of the very few cases where the Islamic finance system does appreciate what is called the opportunity cost or the time value, which means in our example, if John Smith has decided to go with somebody else, okay, and sell that house for $100,000 cash, he was able to make $20,000, profit by involving that money, different business within 10 years. So he has compromised. He has, given up that opportunity to make you happy as his neighbor. So you need to compensate him for that. That's called تكلفة الفرصة البديلة or قيمة الوقت. This is one of the cases where actually the time value in the Islamic finance system actually is appreciated. But to answer the question, the interest that is added or incorporated in the agreement is not the interest, the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited, because you are not borrowing money to start with. So it is called interest, but in reality actually it is not. Right? Right. One more example. How about that? Let's go back to the mortgage issue that we discussed last time. Right? What does mortgaging a house in the US mean? It means that you as a customer or as a victim, actually, you get involved in three different transactions simultaneously. Okay, you sign a sale agreement with the landlord where you are interested in buying his or her house, and then you do not have $500,000 to pay cash, so you apply for a loan or for a mortgage, right? And upon approving your application, the mortgage company would issue a check, okay, on your behalf, payable to the landlord, $500,000, and you have to pay it back $800,000 within 30 years, right? So this is actually the loan agreement. And the third one actually is the lien agreement or the mortgage agreement, where the mortgage company wants to secure its fund, make sure that if you just walk away, or you pass away, or you just whatever happened, they can just go after the property, okay, foreclose the property and get their property back because you defaulted, right? So you're talking about sale agreement and a loan agreement and a lien agreement. Okay. Some people actually get confused whenever they say the mortgage company's name on the deed of trust. They think, oh, this is the owner of the house. No, they are not. The mortgage company actually is the lien holder of the property and not the owner. You are the owner. You are the borrower, okay, of the money. You are the owner of the house, and they are the lien holder. They are the lien holder. Okay. Now we see. Oh, exactly. Oh, Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Very good catch, Jazakallah. So we ended up having three different deals are taking place simultaneously. Do we have an issue with the sale agreement? No. Do we have an issue with the mortgage agreement? No, we do not. Okay. In the Islamic finance system, actually, the lender does have the right to ask for a secured loan. They call it in technical term. وإن كنتم على سفر ولم تجدوا كاتبا فرهان مقبوضة. الرهان actually is the mortgage. I mean, this is the ayah in the Quran. وإن كنتم على سفر ولم تجدوا كاتبا فرهان مقبوضة. If someone actually is asking me for $100 loan and I do not know him very well, can I ask for his phone or his car or watch or whatever to keep it with me as collateral, right? Until he comes back and give me the money? Yes, I mean I can. That's exactly what happens with the mortgage company whenever they put a lien on the property. So we do not have an issue with the lien agreement or the mortgage agreement. We do not have an issue with the sale agreement. We do have an issue with the loan agreement, right? So we ended up having two halal transactions, lien agreement or mortgage and sale agreement, and one of them actually is haram. If you want to go with the democracy, as they say, 2 against 1, you go with the majority, then mortgage should be halal. But in the Islamic finance system, actually, it goes the other way around, unfortunately, right? If one segment in the deal is proven to be prohibited, then the whole deal actually is ruined. The whole deal actually is haram. So by default, mortgaging a house is not a halal option. And again, okay, you say, oh, there is a darura and haja, Sheikh al-Qaradawi, rahmatullah alayh. I mean, all these different discussions are actually very irrelevant, to this very basic presentation about the basic rules of riba. By default, mortgaging a house does involve riba. Now, can you see the pattern, the exercise that we do? Every single transaction, you need to pause and try to unlock the secret of the transaction. Try to unlock the secret of the transaction. If you can deduct and find out that someone actually is giving money to somebody else without taking any liability or any risk whatsoever, right? And the other party is the one who is taking the whole risk. That is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. Something else that you come across, occasionally, your non-Muslim friend, okay, might ask you a question. Why interest is prohibited? When I go to Bank of America and apply for a loan and they charge me 3% APR, and I go just upgrade my business and make 10-15% profit, I pay the principal, I pay the interest, everybody is happy. Why? I mean, why riba is haram? Well, that's a good question. And my answer actually is that the example that he mentioned is not the only example that takes place in the real life. Sometimes you borrow from a bank and you do not make 3% or 10 or 15%. You make even way more than 100% profit. 100%. Well, sometimes you make 1,000% profit. And I mean what I say, right? So if you borrow from a bank and you pay them only 3% and you make 1,000% profit, you keep the profit for yourself and you give the bank just fractions of the profit. This is actually very, very unfair to the bank. Even if the bank actually is happy, there is no justice here. There is no justice here. Now, let's take the other extreme example where you borrow money. Let's say you borrowed money back in March 2020, just a few weeks before the COVID-19, the pandemic, right? And then the whole economy in the USA got frozen because of the pandemic, right? By the law of the land, the bank actually can go after those borrowers. Okay, maybe there are some exceptions, but this is not the default rule. Default rule is that they can go after you, asking for the principal and asking for the premium according to our definition. Well, if you did not make any profit whatsoever, you were unable to break even, you were unable even to survive, you just ran out of business because of the pandemic. Is it fair enough for the bank to go after you and to ask you for the principal and for the interest on top of it? Well, this is absolutely, absolutely unfair, right? So our answer as practicing Muslims is that whenever riba, whenever riba implemented, okay, is implemented in any society, it brings a lot of injustice and exploitation, taking advantage of the needy individual, needy for the fund, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants justice to be implemented. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He prohibits something, He prohibits it every time, everywhere, for everybody. Whether riba is 2% or 20%, doesn't make any difference. Whether riba in a zuru or thimar or in cash money or cryptocurrency, it is still actually haram. Whether the economy is flourishing or just there is a recession, it doesn't make any difference. Riba actually is haram every time, everywhere. Now, this model, okay, which is like giving money to others without taking responsibility, is called the risk shifting model. Risk shifting model, where Bank of America is just putting the liability and the money in you. You are by your own. You just do whatever you want. I don't care about you. You come back after 1 or 2 years, you pay me the principal and the premium, right? Now, the Islamic finance system goes with the risk sharing model. That's completely different. Every single mode of finance, every single mode of finance in the Islamic finance system does have to show a certain percentage of risk or liability taken by the financier himself in order for him to justify the profit that he is asking for. And that's the meaning of the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, al-kharaju bil-daman, subhanallah, وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. In two words, actually, he just summarized the whole issue. He said, al-kharaju bil-daman, profit follows liability. You want to make a profit, ahlan wa sahlan, we would love to see you flourishing in your business, but you need actually to take a certain amount of risk. Okay, we talked about Islamic mortgage companies last time. If you want to go with the ideal one, if you still remember, it was the musharaka one. Is that correct? You remember it? The diminishing partnership or the declining partnership, where you purchase the house jointly with the Islamic mortgage company, and they have to pay the maintenance and the tax and the insurance proportionally based on their percentage of ownership. Okay, even if you change your mind after 10, 15 years, you want to put the house in the market, for sale. If there is any appreciation, they are entitled for their share. If there is a depreciation, they are entitled for their share in the loss. It's a genuine, sound, long-term partnership between you and the mortgage company, right? Everybody actually will be treated the same. So, in very few words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to establish justice on earth, right? In fact, the main reason, according to the Quran itself, the main reason behind sending prophets and messengers to humanity to guide them to the right path, right, is to establish justice, in which, well, most important thing actually of the justice is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. But listen to this ayah. لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ. We have sent our prophets and messengers with the clear evidences. وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانَ. And we sent with them scriptures and the scale. Okay, as if someone is asking Allah Azza wa Jal, why you did all that, Ya Allah? Why you sent all those prophets and messengers? What was the answer? قال ليقوم الناس بالقسط لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان ليقوم الناس بالقسط. So actually people will be judged and treated based on justice. And when you just permit or allow riba, you are implementing the injustice, you are ruining the justice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to be established. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited interest. In the Islamic finance system, loan is not a mode of finance. Loan is not a mode of finance. If you go to the Islamic Bank of America and apply for a loan, you ask for cash money as a loan, they will say, well, you are in the wrong place. I mean, we do not give you money, right? If you want to finance your business, let's sit down and talk business. What kind of business you have? Why you want the money, right? You want to establish a new business, right? Upon approving your application, you can get some money based on mudaraba, where the money is provided by the bank, and you are the manager or the operator, right? You just start working your business, establish car dealership, whatever business you want. If there is a profit, the bank is entitled for their percentage of profit. If there is no profit, you pay them back the principal. Worst case scenario, you did not make any profit, you were unable even to break even. Believe it or not, they cannot even go after you asking for their money because you are partners, because you are partners, right? So loan actually is not a mode of finance whatsoever in the Islamic finance system. You need to go with any of those different Islamic modes of finance. Could be mudarabat, could be musharakat, could be murabaha. It depends on the nature of the business itself and the reason behind why you want to have that money. You want to construct something from scratch. There's something called istisna, the manufacturing sale. You bring someone to do the construction from A to Z, right? He or she has to find out how much he has to pay out of pocket, and then he can mark it up from the beginning. Okay, this building actually will cost me $1 million. I'm willing to make it happen from A to Z. I'm gonna sell it back to you for $1.2 million within the next 10 years. Throughout the process of constructing the building, he is fully responsible for everything. If something happens, actually, he is liable for it. Now, once the key actually is given to you, and the house or the building, okay, the property became yours, then you are by your own. You pay them back 1.2. But they took actually a huge amount of liability and risk by constructing and building that building. Murabaha, for example, an existing house that you want to buy. The bank would buy it, close on it, become the legal owner of the house, and then next day in the morning they can just sell it back to you with a higher price. They are not lending you money; they are selling you property with a higher price. They just buy it spot sale, as they say, and sell it back to you credit sale because you do not have cash. So they make money. They make money, but in a halal way. Example actually go on and on and on. So again, this is like a very brief introduction to the topic Islamic finance 101. I know that we have a lot of things to discuss. Maybe what else we did not touch on briefly. Yeah, retirement accounts, life insurance. What was that? Crypto, yeah, cryptocurrency. طيب. Let us just take maybe just a few minutes to break, okay, and we'll open inshallah the floor for question and answer inshallah. Just 1 or 2 minutes. الله. طيب يا إخوة, if you remember last time I just introduced to you Guidance College. Let me just remind you again with this very promising project where alhamdulillah we are progressing and doing very good with the accreditation. We are not accredited yet. Guidance College, for those who did not attend last time, is an Islamic university. We have been operating for the last 10 years. Now alhamdulillah we are operating purely online. We used to have in-person classes before the pandemic. Now, the whole world actually is running online. So we have 3 different programs. We have bachelor's degree in Islamic studies for the like new Muslim generation, for the new reverts to Islam. We have masters in Islamic education, another masters in Islamic economics and finance, right? What I presented actually is just, I would say, like a free sample or appetizer of what we offer in the Islamic, in the masters in Islamic economics and finance. Alhamdulillah, we are doing well with the construction. We've not started the actual construction, but Alhamdulillah, we are almost getting the permit from the county to start the construction. Our master plan, if you go to our website, guidancecollege.org, you will see like a full-fledged masjid, and the second floor of the masjid, second floor, will be the main office of Guidance College. We do have a plan actually to bring back at least Houstonian students to have in-person class, like in classes, inshallah. There will be a full-time Islamic school, K-12 Islamic school, healthcare clinic, youth center as well, like multi-purpose hall. And we do have a plan to have a kind of investment or like a side business to to support the operation and to cover the expenses of the college. Uh, Having said that, actually, we try our best to fulfill the mission of disseminating authentic and relevant Islamic knowledge in the USA, and to make sure that we are producing more brothers and sisters who are like very versed in Islamic knowledge and willing to take the responsibility, inshallah, for generations to come, inshallah. Guidance College is a 501c non-for-profit organization. Guidance College is an eligible zakah recipient under the category of al-fuqara and al-masakin. You can sponsor students of knowledge who are unable to pay for the tuition fees. Alhamdulillah, we have like a good number of new reverts to Islam who found out that Guidance College is the right place for them to pursue degrees. That's something actually makes us so proud of what we are doing, alhamdulillah. Gender-wise, we have almost 60% females versus 40% males, which is something good, alhamdulillah. We are able to reach out to the underserved segment of the community. We have a lot of sisters, joining and enjoying actually studying at Guidance College. As I said, like a good number of them are reverts to Islam. We do offer our own in-house financial aid and scholarship. And alhamdulillah, we did not in the past, we do not in the present, and inshallah, we will not in the future, like turn down the application of any student because he or she, cannot afford paying the tuition fees. We do have in-house financial aid and scholarship. Please keep us in your dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue blessing us with His help, with His mercy, with His support, to continue fulfilling that mission. This is number one. Number two, I would love actually to see as many brothers and sisters as possible from this community joining Guidance College. We are not here just for community education and just lectures, no, and webinars and seminars. We would love to see degree students go to guidancecollege.org, find out which program actually fits the best for your need. If you can be a degree student, that will be ideal. If not, maybe you can be just a non-degree student. Non-degree, you just pick and choose certain classes you want to educate yourself in the Muslim family law, marriage and divorce, for example, or the Islamic inheritance law, or the Muslim family law, or maybe Islamic finance or whatever. Jazakallah. I got it. Even if you are interested. Even if you are not interested to be a non-degree, you just want to be a listener or an audit, for example. You want to take classes without doing the weekly assignment and the midterm and the final exam. That would be an option as well. As I said, I mean, Guidance College is an eligible zakah recipient, and alhamdulillah, we're talking about like at least $30 million like worth of investment, to build that project in West Katy. If you go to guidancecollege.org, you will see something called the Alqudah Islamic Center. Click on it, and you will read like more details about it. So I would just open the floor within just 2 or 3 minutes to find out maybe we can, inshallah, sponsor a student tonight, to sponsor a student for the 4 years, 4 years for bachelor's degree in Islamic studies. That is $10,000. Maybe you decide to put your donation or your sadaqah, your zakah in the construction. If you decide to do so, make sure whenever you go to the website, click on Huda Islamic Center. Huda Islamic Center takes you to a different bank account and you make your donation. That money will go to the construction. If you click on support, that money will go to the financial aid and scholarship. So sponsoring one student from A to Z for bachelor's degree in Islamic studies, that is $10,000. Legacy that you want to leave behind. صدقة جارية, according to the hadith of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, إذا مات ابن آدم انقطع عمله إلا من ثلاث. When the son of Adam dies, all of his good deeds will be terminated except from three. And the first one is صدقة جارية. He didn't say صدقة, subhanAllah. He means what he says. Sadaqah means one-time payment, one-time reward. Sadaqatun jariyah means one-time payment, everlasting reward. You do a very smart investment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by putting your money in building a masjid, putting your money in, or you invest your money in producing maybe like a knowledgeable scholar, a brother or a sister who will be equipped with enough knowledge, going to different Islamic schools and weekend school and Quran classes and synagogues and churches and masajid and doing da'wah and being involved in the community. As long as he or she is delivering that da'wah and fulfilling the job, as long inshallah that you will be getting your reward inshallah. So having said that, within just a few minutes, do you think that we can have maybe few brothers who are willing to sponsor maybe just one student for 2 years, like $5,000, maybe two donors, 5,000 each, that will take care of the first student. Anyone, inshallah, who is willing to make it happen, has a plan to prepay zakatul mal with $5,000. Anyone, inshallah, who is willing to make it happen? Anyone thinks that this is like a good project, a promising project that deserve your financial support? Anyone who is willing, inshallah, to make it happen from your sadaqah, from your donation, from your zakatul mal, on behalf of yourself, on behalf of someone who passed away? Do you think that sponsoring a student for 1 year, which is 2,500, is maybe doable? Anyone who's willing, inshallah, to make it happen? $2,500. Okay, sponsoring one student for 1 year. Okay, you can break it down maybe to $50 a month or 100, whatever is convenient for you. Anyone from the brother side, from the sister side? Anyone, inshallah, who's willing to make it happen? Sponsoring one student for 1 year, undergrad student for 2,500. Is that doable? Can we, inshallah, make it happen? Can you squeeze your budget? Do you think that going down maybe to 1,000 is more affordable? 1,000, just a standard donation, $1,000. Can someone help me with the pledge forms, please? Let me just go briefly with 1,000. I wish, inshallah, I hope that we can have maybe 10 brothers and sisters who are willing to sponsor one student for tonight. Who will be the first one with only $1,000 sadaqah, donation, zakah? You want the money to go to the masjid? You want the money to go? By the way, if you decide to like fill out the pledge form, okay, just check the endowment. Endowment means construction. Okay, sponsorship means financial aid and scholarships. Anyone, inshallah, with 1,000 who is willing to make it happen? Can you squeeze your budget a little bit? Can you prepay your zakah from now? Can someone reach out to the sisters and give them pledge forms? Any commitment, inshallah, for 1,000? Anyone who is willing? Want to give it a try? Squeeze your budget. Prepay your zakah. Maybe you pay on behalf of somebody else. Maybe you commit on behalf of somebody else. Anyone? Sister's side, any support, any donation? $1,000. Maybe you can sponsor just one student for tonight. But do you think maybe 500 is easier, more doable? Can we see a few hands with 500? $500 to sponsor a student, or if you want the money to go to the construction, that is your money, your call. صدقة جارية, علم ينتفع به, ولد صالح يدعو له, ongoing charity, beneficial knowledge. This is exactly what we do to produce, inshallah, like more indigenous, more organic people of knowledge from within the community, brothers and sisters who are willing, inshallah, to speak the language and to speak the mind of the community. Any support, any pledge, any donor, any zakah payer, any Kareem, brother or sister, 1,500, any commitment? طيب, maybe the least you can do is to make sure that you take the pledge form. You might like change your mind later on, or at least maybe you can pass it on to somebody else. Okay, let's take those projects, inshallah, more seriously, because we're talking about Islamic education in the USA. We're talking about the future of Islam, because if we stay as is without establishing those institutes, having them fully registered and accredited, and the current scholars that we are having are passing away one after another, we might reach to a point where the whole community does not have enough people of knowledge. And the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith said, إن الله لا يقبض العلم انتزاعا ينتزعه من الناس ولكن يقبض العلم بقبض العلماء. Right? Allah does not take away the Islamic knowledge by snatching it from people, while He does so by taking the soul of the scholars. حتى إذا لم يبقي عالما, until he leaves no people of knowledge. اتخذ الناس رؤوسا جهالا. People will be taking ignorant individuals, assigning them as scholars. فسئلوا فأفتوا بغير علم. Right? They will be asked and they will be answering without having knowledge. فضلوا وأضلوا. They will go astray and they will take their community astray. So we do not want to reach to that point where the whole community does not have enough, trained, versed, well established scholars, brothers and sisters who are willing, inshallah, to take their responsibility. Please support Guidance College as much as you can. The construction, the financial aid, the scholarship, whatever you feel more comfortable with. The floor actually is yours for question and answer. I will start here. Would you please, like, if you want to make it live, please use the microphone so everybody would hear the conversation. تفضل.
السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم. Just turn it off.
Okay.
Can you please read them for me? Just turn it off. جزاك الله خير. Right. Wallahi, yeah. When it comes to the most recent fatwa issued by Egyptian scholars, we need to be like up to the challenge when it comes to the political system, right? That's something that actually has to be taken into consideration. If we are referring to Al-Azhar itself, well, Al-Azhar itself actually is the one issued a very famous fatwa back in 1965 that فوائد البنوك هي الربا المحرم, right? فوائد البنوك, the interest or the fawaid that you generate from opening investment or saving accounts is the absolute riba. Now, because of the political challenges and the situation there, those fatwa unfortunately have been politicized, right? Without pinpointing or like accusing anyone, but if you want to go with the original authentic fatwa of Al-Azhar, go back to 1965 and read what Al-Azhar, okay, before the politicization, if you wish, of Al-Azhar, they were like clear that any kind of fawaid that you receive from your saving account is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. So the previous fatwa are the authentic ones, and the current ones actually unfortunately are not. طيب. Let me just make it clear يعني one more time the official fatwa by مجمع البحوث العلمية والإفتاء في الأزهر in 1965 was a very free unpoliticized one, and actually people were unanimously at that time in agreement that any kind of fawaid, any kind of money that you generate from the saving account or the investment account that you open in a traditional bank is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. Now for me, I would go with the previous fatwa. The current fatwa having the challenges and the politicization of the of the issue and the change actually that is taking place in Al Azhar, having some of those big names campaigning with the regime in Egypt actually makes me very uncomfortable going with the current fatwa. If you trust them the most, you think that they are independent, they are authentic, they are righteous people, they speak their mind, they are not under pressure. You want to follow them. I mean, it's absolutely up to you. But I would rather go with the old fatwa of Al Azhar, not the current ones. I know, I know, I know. طيب, let's تفضل.
السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم.
اولا نطرح السؤال ديالي بغيتك تشرح لنا شويه على الحرام لذاته والحرام لغيره والاسقاطات ديالها في المعاملات الاسلاميه الحاليه.
So the brother actually is asking about the differentiation between whatever is prohibited for itself versus whatever is prohibited for other causes, right? Like this is a very well-known classification when it comes to haram in Islam. There is something called haramun lidatihi and haramun lighayrihi. Let's take actually the same subject, which is riba. If you are getting involved in a transaction where avoiding riba is not an option, or riba is unavoidable. Riba is unavoidable, right? Okay. Whether you pay it to others or you receive it from others, doesn't make any difference. That's something called haramun lidati, because actually you are embracing the haram, you are implementing the haram. For example, you apply for investment loan, business loan from Bank of America, as I said in the beginning. If you are not willing to commit yourself to pay the interest, you are by your own. So riba in this scenario is unavoidable. Unavoidable. Versus holding credit card. Holding credit card. When you hold a credit card, you cannot proceed with the application without agreeing to pay interest in certain cases. Only and only if you use your credit card, for cash withdrawal. Only if you do not pay your monthly statement or current statement in full before the due date, right? Okay. What if I refrain from using my credit card for cash withdrawal? What if I'm committing myself to pay the outstanding balance every single month in full before the due date? Will I be mandated to pay interest? No. Is riba avoidable in this case? The answer is yes, right? So holding credit card is haramun lighayrihi tahrima wasa'il, is prohibited for other causes. And based on this classification, if there is a public and general need, right, then going with al-haram lighayrihi would be fine. For us Muslims living here in this society, right, holding credit card actually is a kind of public need. Am I correct? Okay. Sometimes you cannot pay cash, you can't use your debit card, you cannot use your personal check or even cashier check. It has to be credit card. Okay. In order for you to build or to establish your own credit history, you have to have a credit card. You have to keep borrowing money and paying on time. So there is a public and general need. Now your need, Akhil Kareem, might be different from mine, might different be from his or her, right? At the end of the day, we Muslims in this society actually is in need for using credit card, and the haram is avoidable. So holding credit card is haramun lighayrihi tahrima wasa'il. prohibited for other causes, thus could be permitted as needed. While الحرام لذاته, going and borrowing money with interest, cannot be permitted unless there is a necessity. Is that clear? طيب. Any question from the sister side?
Yeah, I have a
Yeah, حاضر إن شاء الله. نعم.
I have a few questions from the sister side.
طيب. From the sister side. تفضل.
Yeah. Can one take interest from savings account and donate it?
طيب. Is opening a saving account prohibited for itself or for other causes? For itself. Well, based on that, you cannot even open a saving account unless, yeah, even if you have like a pure intention of disposing that money, not donating or disposing the haram money. This actually is not an enough justification for you to open a saving account, because that's something حرام لذاته. الحرام لذاته لا تبيحه إلا الضرورة, right? So do not open a saving account, period. There are like very few exceptions. One of them, for example, is that if you have any business, anything to do with the stock market, you cannot proceed with settling payments, receiving and paying without having what's called a money market account. Money market account actually is a kind of checking account / saving account at the same time. It is an interest-bearing saving account, right? But you cannot do business in the stock market without having money market account. So go ahead and open it, okay, and use it for settlement purposes only. If that account generated any interest, $1 or $1,000, you have to dispose that money.
Two similar questions. Is it allowed to participate in employer-matched 403B plan if you don't have control of the investment options? And the other question is, are federal retirement plans...
Hold on.
Yeah.
When it comes to retirement accounts in general, the standard that we have here is that do your best, okay, do your due diligence to make sure that your investment in the stock market is as halal as possible. If you do not have that leverage or that authority to custom design and to put together your own portfolio, just find out, how much haram involved in it. How can you determine that? Maybe you can run your portfolio by any of those socially responsible mutual fund companies, especially if they are like Muslim-owned ones. Okay, maybe you can run it by Zaki Financial, ZAKI Financial. They do it as a service, as a paid service. Send them a copy of your portfolio, and they can go through it and just send you a report. Go to zakifinancial.com, okay, and ask for the service. Find out. Let's say, for example, that you found out that the best you can do is to keep your retirement account 403B or 401k or pension plan or whatever 80% halal, right? Pure halal stocks versus 20% haram. Well, keep it as is. Do not compromise or give up your retirement account. Okay, dispose 20% of the profit of your account. Okay, not the value of your account. No, only the profit of your account. 20%, which is supposedly coming from the haram one, and pay zakah on the rest, and that will be it. Right. That's question 1 or 2. Next one.
You have pinpointed the problem, but what is the solution? How can we negotiate a loan for a business with the Bank of America, for example? There are not too many Islamic banks to choose from, and we are left with options like BOA.
Well, you do not have to negotiate a deal with Bank of America. If you are strong enough and determined enough, you need to ignore Bank of America, and you establish your own finance system in the USA. You do not have to penetrate the system and come up with halfway solutions and semi-halal. No, none of the above. Just ignore them and establish your own private capital market, okay, from within the Muslim community. Try to keep the Muslim dollars within, right? You want to mortgage for your house, go ahead as a community, as a strong community here in Boston, go ahead and establish your own Islamic mortgage company. copy and paste, the model of Amin Housing in California, or what's called, I think, Aya or Inaya or whatever, a new company that operates completely off the secondary market, right? Sometimes, unfortunately and unwillingly, please excuse me, we just enslave ourselves to the system. We do not have to. Okay, get rid of the system, establish your own company away from the system, establish like a pure halal mode of finance, and just serve the community at large. Go to aminhousing.com and read more about this model. It's almost 100% Sharia compliant. Right? It's a local Islamic mortgage company. You can do the same for commercial purposes. Okay, what stops us here as a Muslim community from establishing our own like capital market, bringing resources together, put them together under LLC, okay, and start funding like Muslim-owned businesses, for commercial purposes, for residential, for industrial. We can do a lot. In the same way that we do have a lot of restrictions and limitations, we do have opportunities. But unfortunately, we are not standing for our values, and that's why we are just going right and left, trying to find halfway, okay, or like a semi halal or halal enough solutions, and just manipulating the system and coming up with different nonsense, with all due respect, solutions. This is the wrong way. Be strong, establish yourself by yourself.
Last question from the women's side: is core life insurance sponsored by employer allowed in Islam?
In my personal opinion, actually, insurance as a system is a halal by default. I do not believe that insurance is haram to start with. Any kind of insurance, whether it is a mutual based or stock based or government based, at the end of the day, is a bilateral agreement. Bilateral agreement in a sense that it is a two-sided commitment. Okay. Now, for the Social Security Administration, for example, or Medicare or Medicaid, if you are not paying on a monthly basis, right, you will not be eligible to receive any compensation or benefit from the Social Security. Is that correct? If you do not have an account for whatever reason might be with the Social Security, unless Allah you passed away, they will not sympathize with your wife and kids and just start paying them for nothing, right? You have to make sure that you do have an account with the Social Security. So no one actually is giving you a sadaqah with all due respect or donation. There is no cooperation or sadaqah or benevolence, none of the above. It's a legally binding agreement. Okay, you commit to paying a premium to the Social Security or to the Medicare or to the Medicaid or to the life insurance or to the commercial insurance or business or home insurance in order for you to be eligible to receive, okay, an insurance benefit. And if you believe that there is difference between the Social Security from one side and life insurance, with all due respect, I think you are wrong. I wholeheartedly believe that insurance as a system, as a contract, is the same. All different kinds of insurance are bilateral agreements. Okay, you either prohibit everything, life insurance, commercial, business, liability, full coverage, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, or otherwise you just permit everything. But to pick and choose and to say, okay, any kind of government-based insurance is halal because it is based on cooperation, while life insurance is haram because it is a commercial one. This claim actually, or this differentiation, has no base from from a fiqh perspective, to my knowledge. I might be wrong. This is not the mainstream fatwa, as you all know, but this is actually what I personally believe, that insurance actually is halal. And I highly encourage those who do not have their own life insurance policy, go ahead and have your own life insurance policy, because the Medicare or Medicare, the Social Security, and your retirement account won't be enough for your kids to to survive and to have like financial stability, Allah forbids, in case of your death. Now, if you want to be in the safe side, by the way, if you want to be in the safe side, by just going with the mainstream fatwa of different fiqh councils, okay, who believe that any kind of government-based insurance, any kind of mutual-based insurance, right, is halal, well, go ahead and find a life insurance policy, okay, offered by a mutual-based insurance company. Okay, double check with Liberty Mutual, with like any other mutual based insurance company. If they do have life insurance, go ahead and just purchase your own policy. You can catch two birds in one stone. You have your own life insurance, okay, and meanwhile you are not deviating yourself from the mainstream fatwa. Personally, I do not see this differentiation anymore. I do have my personal my own life insurance policy, and I purchased that policy from a stock base, not from a mutual base, because I do not see any difference between the three different options. Allah, I might be wrong, maybe Allahu alam, but this is actually to the best of my knowledge. I was with the mainstream opinion maybe until 2015 or 16, and then I completely changed my mind. I'm now standing clearly that insurance actually is permissible. Insurance is a kind of necessity, especially for Muslims living here in this society. Do not wait, la samahallah, Allah forbids, for something bad to happen to you, and then you see your wife and your kids, la samahallah, may Allah protect them all, standing by the door of the masjid and asking for sadaqah and donation. You don't want to put your wife and kids in that situation. No. Tafadhal. Yes, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sorry.
Is it
Go
me or someone else?
Okay.
Thank you so much for this beautiful lecture. My question is, I have two questions actually, but I'm gonna just merge them into one. It's about the cashback on your credit card. So my concern is that money that you get is from riba, and you know that credit card companies, they make money 100% from riba, right? So they charge like businesses 4%, 3.5%, and then they give you a portion of that money to you, to customers, to encourage them to use credit cards. My second question is the same, but now
So
for
let's go like one question at a time.
Sure.
Now, are we responsible for the permissibility or the source of income or funding of the other party whenever we deal with others? The answer actually is no. I'm responsible for the soundness and the permissibility of the deal itself. Now, where did the other party get his money from? That is actually his business and his liability in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not my liability. Evidence for that is that the Prophet ﷺ used to deal with the Jewish community in Medina, trading with them. And it is well known at that time and until today, until the day of judgment, that Jewish actually are the founders and the manufacturers of riba. Is that correct? Okay. Prophet ﷺ did not refrain from proceeding with any transaction before asking the Jewish guy, where did you get your money from? Is it haram or halal? Is it riba or or not? This is actually to make it clear that my responsibility as a Muslim is to focus on the deal that I'm having with the other party. Now, is that money came from a haram way? That's actually his liability, his responsibility. Maybe with some few exceptions, like for example, if I have a car dealership, right, and I'm positive that someone came to pay me $10,000 for a car in which the money actually is stolen. I'm 100% positive. I cannot sell that car for him because the money actually is stolen. It does have a legitimate owner, or the money has been embezzled, right, or taken like by force, بالغصب يعني, right? I cannot take it. But otherwise, where did he get the money from? That's absolutely his his liability, his responsibility. We do fundraising in our masajid every now and then, right? Are we supposed to ask our donors what kind of business you have? Is your business halal? Can you donate? Well, I mean, we do not have to. Now, there is another fiqh maxim here. It's good to know, which is اختلاف. Well, let's keep it simple. الحرام لا ينتقل إلى ذمتين. The prohibition status is not transferable from one individual to another. Okay, the prohibition status is not transferable from one to another. Okay, I deal with interest. I lend people money with interest. So my money actually is mixed, haram and halal. Okay, and I stopped by your grocery store. I want to buy some food, right? Now that money, whenever it is paid, okay, whenever I generate the interest, that's haram for me because I'm lending money with interest. But when I give you the money, you take that money for the bread and the cheese and the eggs that you are selling me. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for you, that money actually is halal. For me, the money is haram. So we have to like draw a line between the the prohibition status based on the way that you generated the money. Okay. So for me, in our example, that money is haram because I'm lending people with interest. I charge interest. But when I pay that interest to you, it's not an interest anymore. It is a price for the bread and the cheese that I'm buying. Okay. Very good example or actually evidence is what happened with the Prophet ﷺ when he stopped by the house of Barira. Barira actually was a slave girl of Aisha radiallahu anha. Right? She was cooking meat, Barira. So Prophet ﷺ asked her to serve him some meat to eat. She said, Ya Rasulullah, innahu min as-sadaqah. Or this is a donation. Providing the Prophet ﷺ does not accept donation, as you know. Because of his status, he accepts hadiyah, gift, but not a sadaqah. So he said, huwa laki sadaqah wa lana hadiyah. Now for you, when you received it, it was a sadaqah as a slave girl. But when you serve that food or that meat to me, it's not a sadaqah anymore, it is a hadiyah. You see? So scholar said, اختلاف الأسباب كاختلاف الأعيان. Okay, the fundamental change behind the reason of receiving the money is equivalent to the change of the substance itself. So the money actually is haram for me because I took it from riba. The same money, riba, when I pay it to you to buy a car from your car dealership or to buy some groceries from your grocery store, it's not haram anymore. Make sense?
Yeah.
Well,
Is okay, no comment, I know. The second thing, which is about the savings, because this is very necessity for if you go above $10,000, you deposit that, you have to file an STA report, suspicious activity report. So to avoid that, you put a saving account. Especially, let's say you have a fundraiser here, and you collected, let's say, $200,000. You can't deposit that into your checking account, but you could deposit that into your saving account without any restriction. So is that a necessity?
it depends actually on the reason behind opening a saving account. Okay, reason number one, you cannot proceed with any business in the stock market without having money market account. Go for it. Number two, you have like a big chunk of money and you do not want to keep it as at home, right? Go ahead and open another checking account, free of charge, free of interest, and do not release its information. Do not use it, checks. Do not use debit card. Do not use that account. If you just keep it confidential without releasing its information, the possibility of identity theft or frauding your account, okay, would go down almost to zero. So opening a checking account is the solution. Number three, you want to open a saving account, okay, to be able to make some money or at least to set off the inflation. Especially nowadays, the inflation just going crazy, 9 point something %, which is something like unprecedented in the USA, as you know, right? Well, if that is the reason, then maybe you can open a mutual fund, like a halal mutual fund account. Okay, you will generate money way more than what you will be generating by opening a saving account. Most importantly, in a halal way. And we have, alhamdulillah, a lot of halal options when it comes to investment in the stock market or opening like a mutual fund account. Go to Zaki Financial, ZAKI, ZakiFinancial.com. I'm the Sharia consultant of this company. Their business actually is good. Go to Azad Fund. I'm not on their board, but I know for a fact that, mashallah, their business model is good. Okay. We do have Iman Fund. We do have Sharia portfolio. We have, mashallah, 10, 15 different Muslim-owned, socially / ethically responsible mutual fund companies. Invest with them, make halal money. Okay, that's way better than jeopardizing your money by opening a saving account and disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, it depends on the reason behind opening the saving account. طيب, you want to run the question and answer? You go ahead. تفضل. So you are in charge. تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Just a quick question. I know a lot of brothers, Muslim brothers, they deal with stocks and cryptocurrency. I mean, most of them, they don't know how Islam, what's the, how Islam, look at this too. And, what's your comment here? And if you can talk a little bit about, cryptocurrency and dealing with stock market.
يعني briefly أخي الكريم, we the مشايخ are the one who's confusing the community because we are not on the same page. Some of us are extremely with, some of us are extremely against, and some of us are undecided, like it's still on the fence. If you ask me as as an AMJA fiqh council, we do not believe as of today, we do not believe that cryptocurrency is a haram currency. It is not. It is actually imposing itself, getting like more acceptance, more popularity, if you wish. A lot of central banks and intercontinental companies do accept cryptocurrency as a method of payment. The IRS in the United States is charging tax on cryptocurrency, believe it or not, which is like a very clear indication that Uncle Sam actually is acknowledging cryptocurrency as a currency. The other side of the story, Akhi, is that it is a decentralized currency. Okay, Mr. Anonymous is still like playing behind the scene. We do not know who's behind it. Decentralized. There are no measurable facts behind the significant fluctuation in its like purchase power or market value. Something like very, very close in nature to gambling, right? You do not know what are you investing in. It's a nonsense investment whatsoever. Number three, some people might illegally use it for money laundering, right? But our position is that, again, because it is imposing itself, we cannot just put our heads in the sand and act as if nothing happened. It is there, right? Stay away from it because it is absolutely a nonsense investment whatsoever. All right? Very close to gambling in its nature. You expose yourself to too much unnecessary risk. Okay, one of our kids in Houston, our youth, invested $250,000 5 years ago, cryptocurrency, bitcoins and like other cryptocurrency, and the amount actually jumped to $1 million within 5 years. Within just a few weeks, the purchase power, the market value went all the way down to 150,000. So his loss actually was $850,000. 850,000. It was almost like talking to himself in the street, like lost consciousness because of what happened. Told him, Ya Baba, Ya Muhammad, I told you several times, cryptocurrency is a bad investment. You are not investing in something that makes any sense. Okay? He's a student of knowledge. He's like one of our students at Guidance College. Told them several times, real estate is the real investment. Can you tell me when you purchase a cryptocurrency, what are you buying? What are you selling? How come that you sleep on the night and next day you find yourself making 500% profit? Seriously, is this the real investment? And then 2 weeks later, it goes down to 25% value. What is the reason behind that fluctuation going up and down? Is this the I mean, what kind of value you are adding to the society when you trade in cryptocurrency? So the bottom line, akhi, it's not haram. It's not haram. Although, like if you ask me personally, not as an Amja Mufti, I would say, akhi, wallah, in my opinion, it's closer to haram than to be halal. But I do not dare saying it. Okay? It's not haram. Okay, but just to stay away from it. It is not. It shouldn't be like within your comfort zone as a religious practicing Muslim investor. Let me just put it this way. No. تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for sharing such very important knowledge. We are so lucky to have someone like you. This is very complex, and as you know, there was a lot of interest. So, jazakumullahu khair for coming.
Yeah.
And I hope, inshallah, you would find other people and other means to support your cause, inshallah, for building and founding the university, inshallah, ya Rab. May Allah make it easy. I mean, going off what you said, real estate, when you tell them that's the way to go, my question is it okay to use the same model of musharaka with guidance to invest in real estate, basically buying second house or third house and renting it out?
The answer is yes. We as a Fatwa committee, the 6 or 7 members, we came up with a verbal agreement that halal investment is as legitimate need as purchasing a home for residential purposes. So purchasing a second house with guidance residential for investment purposes, like as a rental property, would be fine. Go for it.
Jazakumullah khair. And second one is quick. You spoke about the model of risk sharing. And I know they call the profit, like profit rate, since you have musharaka, we have the owner in the bank. You live there, so you are paying the rent, which is like the profit. Are the fees, you just mentioned that and it just came into my mind. Are the fees like taxes and insurance are both, let's say in this case, guidance and the owner share pay for
No,
it
they
both
do
or
not.
no?
No, they do not. And this is like one of the deficiencies or defects or glitches, if you wish, that they do have in their contract. They have their own justification why they are freeing themselves from paying tax, insurance, and maintenance. But this is actually not the right way of doing business. I mean, they have to commit themselves to their share, the tax and insurance, and they do not. But the fact that they are not paying their share does not render the whole deal to be haram. No, it is a defect agreement. Halal agreement with some glitches, but it's still actually overall speaking, taking into consideration the other less Sharia compliant options. I would say, I mean, this model, is good enough or halal enough, as I always say. Guidance residential is halal enough for those who want to, purchase a home. Yeah. It is a defect now.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Speaking of, I have two questions. Speaking of insurance, I think you started with the fact that religion itself came to establish justice. So now my question is, let's say in an insurance contract, is it fair for someone to pay premiums or for, let's say, a year, 2, 3, 4, without ever use it? Or to another extent, is it okay for someone to have an insurance contract today and maybe, let's say, for example, a car insurance, right? Get a crash today and have, let's say, you started this month, you pay $50, and then something happened to your car, you ended up with $10,000 damage that the insurance company will pay to you. So
That's actually, I hear you.
yes.
That argument actually applies as well to the Social Security, to the Medicare, and to the Medicaid. Yani, is it fair enough for you to have an account with the Social Security and just pay for a few months, and Allah forbid you just passed away, okay? And they started like paying to your wife and your kids maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, although during your lifetime you paid maybe just a few dollars, like a few $100s, and then you passed away. And they continued like paying and paying and paying your wife until the end of your life, your kids until the age of 24. Okay, so you paid a few hundreds and then you passed away, and they paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, is that fair enough? I mean, using the same the same argument.
Yes, like I said, if justice, you shouldn't get more than, unless maybe instead of partaking in it as a customer, unless maybe you partake in it as a shareholder, then I would understand.
Well, if you like look at the genesis, like the actual contract, it has nothing to do with all these details. The actual contract is a commitment between two different contracting parties. If you pay me, the Social Security, $150 a month, okay, If something happened to you, rest in peace. Do not worry. I will pay your wife and kids such and such amount. Most probably, I will paying them way, way more than what you have paid me during your lifetime. Life insurance company is telling you the same. If you pay me $150 now and you pass away, instead of paying your kids and your wife monthly, I'm going to issue like a one-time check of $1 million. What you are purchasing from them is the peace of mind, is the social security, is the guarantee, okay, that if I'm to pass today, tomorrow morning, actually, my kids will be getting a check. You are not buying money. You are not buying insurance. You are just buying a peace of mind. They call it insurance. Okay. When it comes to life insurance, the name actually is wrong. Life insurance actually is a wrong name. You are not having insurance against death. Everybody will be passing away, right? But you are actually taking some possible measures to secure financial stability for those affected people because of losing their bread maker. See what I'm saying? So what you are buying actually is the peace of mind, is the social security. Okay, you know from day one, what are you buying? You know from day one that they are committed to paying you. Well, if you stay alive until the age of 80, for example, like my life insurance, alhamdulillah, I lived from now until 80 without having any problem. So whatever I paid is already gone because of the aman or the security or the assurance that they are giving me. And if I'm to pass before the age of 80, well, they are committed to paying my wife and kids one-time check of $1 million. It's a win-win situation. How do they determine the premium? Based on the data that they have. I mean, they know that, okay, بإذن Azza wa Jal, certain number of people will be passing away. The compensation or the insurance benefits will be such and such. They need such and such amount, to make some living for themselves. Based on that, they decide, well, your premium should be $150 a month. You take it or you leave it. Does it bring justice? In my opinion, it brings a lot of justice and peace of mind and comfort actually for everybody, especially in this society. If you are Akhil Kareem back home, you still have some kind of social family ties. Neighbors stand with you and with your family members, your dad, your brothers, your sisters. It's not the case here. You are literally by your own. Maybe the community might sympathize with you one time and just do a donation or fundraising for your family members. But are we really willing to put our family members in this position? Should I wait until I see my wife and kids standing by the door of the masjid? يسألون الناس الحافة. I mean, why? On the other hand, what is the difference between life insurance and social security? It's the same. It's bilateral agreement, commitment, makes everybody happy. Wallahu alam.
My last question is with regard to investments. We have different investment instruments. Let's say bonds, for example, preferred stock, common stocks. Let's say common stock is an ownership of a share of a company. For example, Google is a technology company, but Budweiser is an alcohol company. Is it okay now to invest in those publicly traded companies?
No. You need to do your own due diligence and find out what company you want to trade in. It's not that simple, Akhi.
Yes.
You need to make sure that the core of business is a halal one. The debt asset ratio is to the minimum. The interest bearing investment is to the minimum. The generated interest actually is to the minimum. In order for you to get all this information, you need to run your portfolio or the potential stock that you want to trade in by a professional, specialized, licensed individual who can give you the information. Go to Atina, AATINAA.co, Atina.co, and just enter the name of the stock that you are interested in. Okay, it's a free service.
Okay.
They have like a search bar, Atina, AATINAA.co. I'm the Sharia consultant of this company. They are extremely conservative when it comes to investing in the stock market. Okay, they show me every 3 months a list of 12,000 different financial instruments. 12,000. And because of the algorithm, because of the formula that they use, they drop them, they filterize them from 12,000 all the way to maybe 800 or just 1,000 Sharia compliant stock, and the rest of them actually are to be excluded.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So go to their website, enter the name of the stock that you're interested in, and see the report. If they say that it passes, it passes. Sometimes they exclude it, although actually the debt asset ratio is okay. Interest-bearing, what do you call it? Investment is okay. Generated interest is okay. Core business is okay. If all these checks actually are okay, then go with the stock, even if they disapprove it. Because again, I mean, like they are extremely conservative when it comes to choosing stocks.
I get the ratios, but
Right.
however, let's say even a halal company that does borrow on interest to do business, are we looking at minimums or are we looking at?
No, yeah, it has to be to the minimum. It has to be to the minimum, as simple as that. تفضل.
Sheikh.
The finance department of any car dealership by default is an independent entity, financially, legally, and administratively. So Honda Finance is different from Honda Car Dealership. It's not one company, right? So if Honda Finance, for example, is offering you 3% APR, it means that you are borrowing money with interest, unless you can prove otherwise. Unless you can prove that no, Honda Finance is owned 100% by the Honda Car Dealership. If that is proven, then any kind of APR would be fine, because you are not borrowing money. This is just a markup for the installment, or higher price for the installment. By default, yes, completely independent, with some exceptions.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair for your talk, Sheikh.
Sure.
Two quick ones. First is right over here. So I use this app called Zoya, which you may have heard of, which looks into like Amana and Azad and all those other organizations, and they say they're not 100% in terms of halal. What is your opinion on that? And does that mean I have to donate whatever is not halal from those organizations to?
Well, different websites and different apps claim to be like, standards for halal investment. What kind of standards they have, I do not know. Who is standing behind them, I do not know. Anyone like checking their business like a Sharia audit, I have no clue whatsoever. In this country, everybody does whatever he or she wants. Everybody claims to be Sharia compliant. If you do not know the people behind the business, I would say stay away from it. So not every single app claims like to be purely Sharia compliant means that they are Sharia compliant. Anyone can just claim to be a Sharia compliant. The safest way actually is to go with a company or with an app where you know the people behind it, who is in charge, who is doing what. If you trust the people behind the project, go for it. As I said, like when I tell you that Azad, although I'm not on their Sharia board, but I know that they do have Sharia advisor and supervisory board, their business, alhamdulillah, is good enough. When I tell you that Sharia on there, it works for you because I'm the Sharia counsel. I know what they do. So I can bear witness, I can pass a fatwa or a judgment or professional opinion on the companies that I do have an access to their data. I know what they do. But if someone, I do not have an access to them, well, I do not know.
Second one is, just a quick second one. This is about private mortgage insurance. So if you don't have 20% for your house with down payment, you mentioned just in general thinking that insurance is not a problem, but what is your opinion specifically on private mortgage insurance?
If life insurance is halal, then everything else is. So just take it easy.
Dr. Alqudah, I have a quick question, if you don't mind. You told the maqasid behind not prohibiting riba is exploit, not to oppress the poor. And then you gave me the example of John Smith. So I'm taking a house from John Smith or maybe Muhammad Abdullah from Guide 150. And then Bank of America gives me the same thing for 110. Would not Bank of America be more in line with the maqasid of, not exploiting the poor? Why would I then have to choose Guide instead of Bank of America there?
No, I disagree because the exploitation is not based on the profit rate or the interest rate. It is based on the amount of liability that Bank of America actually is taking. Bank of America is not taking any liability whatsoever. After 10 years, I mean, you want to terminate the agreement, right? You put the house in the market, okay, you sell it, right? And you have to pay them back the principal that they have paid for you, right? This is actually against the maqasid. If there is any appreciation or depreciation, you are by your own, okay? The appreciation is yours, the depreciation is incurred by you. They do not care, right? No maintenance, no tax, no insurance, nothing whatsoever, right? So exploitation is not based on how much they charge you extra. I mean, this is one of the factors, but the most important factor actually is the amount of liability that they carry on throughout the whole, partnership long with you whenever there is a partnership. Well, if there is no partnership whatsoever, then they are actually exploited because this is a riskless transaction or risk shifting deal. We just give you the money, you are by your own, we do not care about it.
All right.
No.
One last question and then we can wrap
Last
up.
question, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is kind of simple. You mentioned the opportunity cost, which I really enjoyed hearing because usually you never hear that. A lot of brothers, I try to help out in different ways, but we're also talking about inflation, right? So how do you deal with someone trying to provide a loan when the inflation is 10% and a brother says, well, I'll give you the loan back in 10 years, and that money that you've loaned them literally is worth nothing at that time. And so I kind of want to know how inflation is dealt with, whether it's 2%
Well, you are
or
not
10%.
Yeah, you are not supposed to give him a loan to start with,
Yeah,
because this is an investment loan.
Yeah.
And we said several times that loan is not a mode of finance in the Islamic finance system.
Yeah.
Okay? I do have $100,000 cash, and you approached me that you want my money for 10 years, interest-free loan. And I know for a fact that you want to take my money to do business, right? Is it a good a good decision for me to lend you $100,000 interest-free for 10 years while you will be business? Is that fair enough? Yeah, and is it fair enough for you to take my money interest-free
No.
for 10 years, and then you come back after 10 years giving me $100,000 with the depreciation or inflation, maybe, well, purchase power actually reduced maybe 20%, and then you give me a big hug, Jazakallah khair, thank you so much for your money.
So in
Okay.
previous talks, they've said, yes, it is fair. But I'm glad to hear that you're saying it's not fair.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is no inflation issue if you go with the Islamic finance system because you are establishing a partnership, right? Partnership actually means that you are entitled, or I'm entitled, for a certain percentage of the profit, regardless of the purchase power, okay, or the market value, if you wish, of even the inflation of the money, because I did not give you the money as a loan. I gave you the money as an investment, as a business, as a partnership. That concern actually does not even takes place when the loan is not given as a mode of finance to start with. No.
Awesome. I think that's a wrap. You have one.
I think the brother here does have a
Okay.
question.
Are you fine with a couple more
Yeah,
questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
When you buy a house with the guidance, you said this is partnership, not like a loan or something. How will you do with the student loan? Like how you get partnership with a student want to go to college? I mean, it's no tangible things. You mentioned something about student loan.
Well, there is no partnership here. There is no partnership when it comes to student loan. Student loan actually is a loan, like from its name you can tell. Someone actually is borrowing money to pay the tuition fees, right? Now, if your question is about the status of student loan, can a Muslim student borrow money with interest for education purposes? Our official position as MJA is that if that student does not have any halal by default options like grants, financial aid, scholarships, then he or she has to go with the subsidized loan, right? Which is an interest-free loan for a certain period of time. If the subsidized loan is not available and that person actually is on the spot, right, he cannot proceed with any higher education, like college degree, undergrad or graduate or PhD or whatever, then borrowing money with interest for education purposes would be permitted as an exception. That's the official position of AMJA, right? Now, you might say, what's the difference between borrowing money for education versus borrowing money for home mortgaging, right? The difference actually is huge. If you are unable to find a halal mortgage for your house, you can fulfill your need by renting a house. So you can rent a house, okay? Now your need actually is to find a place to live in. You don't have to be the owner. You don't have to be the landlord. So the alternative actually is there. You cannot own a house in a halal way, rent a house. But if you cannot afford paying tuition fees for your college, what will happen? Is there any alternative? You'll be just out of the college, out of the program, right? So student loan is a kind of necessity. You either borrow money with interest or you are just kicked out of the program and no PhD, no master's for you. Home mortgage is a kind of haja or need. Okay, everybody actually here needs to to own a house, but that need does not justify borrowing money with interest because that need could be fulfilled by just renting a house. That's the difference between a home mortgage versus a student loan. No, طيب. So same answer for him. طيب سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته. No, it's not. It is a legitimate need, but it's not a necessity. أنت بتتكلم أبو طه؟ لا أيهما أبو طه؟ But we can hit you out. أحمد أبو طه. Yeah, he was محمد أبو طه. محمد أبو طه. لا أنا فكر. هاي تبعك ولا تبع أبو طه؟